Tonight on Power of Bourbon, we decided to be helpful. And so what we are going to do is we are going to share 2 flights to help you introduce your friends to bourbon. Now, you, the audience, have a role this time, and you have to figure out which flight is the flight you should be drinking and which flight is the flight all your friends want to be drinking.
All right, TJ, lead us off.
Okay, so the first bottle I've got in my flight is a bottle that gets overlooked, but definitely belongs in every flight when you're going to bring some buddies over and get them excited for bourbon, and that is Maker's Mark. So Maker's Mark is a great one because it's a wheated bourbon, which there's not a ton of wheated bourbons out there. It is a good wheated bourbon, and the best part is if they get excited about this, you can find it anywhere. And as Chuck knows, when you travel, it might be your only option. So you actually kind of need to learn to like Maker's Mark if you like bourbon.
That or Knob Creek, yeah. All right, my first bottle comes in this fancy tube called E.H. Taylor Small Batch. It says, small batch, not single barrel, unfortunately. But, easy drinker, readily available. I just saw it at my local store for $130. Like, it sits out there all the time, So, yeah, E.H. Taylor Small Batch. It's a, smooth, easy drinker, similar to Maker's. Not wheated, but,
I mean, I saw it yesterday on Facebook. They released it at Buffalo Trace. There was a line of 250 people, and supposedly they all got it, but you just had to stand in line for about 4 hours.
Totally worth my time. I mean, I don't know how you value your time, but yeah, 4 hours for Taylor Small Batch.
So my next bottle is Old Forester 1910. So not 1920, though a lot of people might take issue with that. We did do a video a while back, and I will link it above, where the general consensus from our community is 1910 is better than 1920.
Oh, it was really close. Limited sample size.
I mean, Brian won it by like 5 votes at the end. So
I just didn't want to say that.
He is the people's champ because he chose 1910 over 1920. I personally, along with Chuck, still think 1920 is better. But if I'm going to introduce people to bourbon and I want them, they're not used to super high proof or anything like that, and they want more of those sweet notes, which is kind of why I put it right after the Makers. 1910 is a great one. And it's cool because it comes from Old Forester, which is a big distillery, well-known products. And it's got the toasted aspect of it, which the toasted craze is all around. See that by people running everywhere to get Basil Hayden toasted and realize it's just charcoaly water, which I don't understand because people complain about drinking Jack Daniels, and I'm pretty sure it's the exact same thing, charcoaly water.
All right. My number 2, from a distillery just down the street from Old Forester in Louisville, is Shanks. Yeah, so limited release out of the Michter's distillery, coming in at just 91 proof, actually stepping back in proof from the H. Taylor, but similar drinker. It's like I was going to go Brian here and give it an old girlfriend analogy back in high school or something. I don't know, about how it's good to start. The nose is fantastic, and then it just leaves you in the palate, and it's like, where to go?
Yep.
So you can really see if your friends have a palate or not, and if they like, or a nose for that matter. Yeah. So
that you're just training people's nose with Shanks.
That's correct.
You don't want to try to get them into all 3 aspects: the nose, the palate, and the finish. You're just the nose. There's nothing else.
Exactly. And then, I mean, you can also throw in really bad jokes like Shanks for coming out.
Oh, and I appreciate that's not the hardest Michter's to find. So you really thought about the audience.
The right toasted barrel. Yeah. Go for auction at like 10 grand or something.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not even the M10, which is harder to find, or the M10 rye. Like, so I appreciate you thinking about our channel.
Shanks, thank you.
Yeah. So my number 2 is one that is overlooked, and this is one of the first ones on our journey that we did, and we thought it was the most ethanol forward, high proof bourbon ever, and didn't understand why anyone liked it. And all the people that like really get into bourbon always recommend this to people, and now here we are full circle doing the same thing, and that is Elijah Craig small batch. I mean, you can't get any better than Elijah Craig Small Batch. It's a classic bourbon, high rye mash bill, 94 proof. When you're first into it, it feels like 180 proof. It's got a good finish with that rye, so it burns. And then as you slowly learn to like bourbon, you realize that's not an ethanol burn. It's a peppery, spicy burn, which you learn to like. And then also the great thing about this is you can get into all the nonsense that there is behind bourbon because, Elijah Craig was a pastor that started bourbon and all that. Or is he?
Supposedly.
Like, so you get, so you get into all that fun story and you slowly realize that marketing is nothing, which probably leads into Chuck's next bottle.
Yeah, first I just want to say, like, I remember that when we had that Elijah Craig, and it was just like pure gasoline on my palate. And today it's like that's what I go like. That's my go-to if I just or even as a well. Like it's Elijah Craig.
Oh yeah.
And then of course the barrel proofs are fantastic. But yeah, so out of the same distillery, I'm glad Elijah Craig. So out of Heaven Hill, stick coming in at 100 proof, Old Fit 16. So here's my weeder, throwing it in the middle of the flight. Probably not the right place for it, but hey, I like the location. So, Old Fit 16, not the younger versions. Again, readily available. I just saw this in Stockton, California. I mean, you would have had to give probably a kidney or a child. I don't have a child, so but it's there. It's on the shelves.
And I mean, I understand why you put that where you did because we're doing like a 5 bourbon flight, and so that's in the center. So it just naturally draws your crowd in because they're like, oh, that's a pretty bottle. And so I get it. You just put it right there.
Decanter.
Yeah. And exactly. It's a decanter. So after you're done drinking it, you can still use it for something else. So it's worth the kidney because you're getting a second use out of it.
Yeah.
So
I only need one. I still have another one.
Exactly. I get why they're charging a kidney. So for my 4th bottle, you can't. I don't feel like you can do a flight that you're introducing people to bourbon without doing this one because its taste profile is just completely different than a lot of others and can expose people to something new. And this one's like, at least for me, and I live in Louisville and I get that, but I went, liquor shopping the other day and I saw this in every store I went for anywhere from $30 to $40. And I think that is a steal, which is Four Roses single barrel. I mean,
yeah, super available. Yeah, even around me.
Yeah, so I've got a bottle of small batch, I got a bottle of small batch select, I've got a single barrel, and I've got barrel strength. The single barrel, in my opinion, of the bottom 3, well, and I'm not counting yellow label, like that doesn't really count. So of the small batch select, and single barrel is usually middle of the road between those. And honestly, it has the best flavor, I really think. Small batch select is really good, but it's like 45, and this you can usually find for 30. Kroger sometimes around me puts it on sale because, liquor goes bad apparently. And so you just can't go wrong with this. And I love Four Roses. They do some great stuff. So Four Roses, single barrel, 100 proof, great pick.
Yeah, I like how it introduces to single barrels as well. And I remember, again, early on in our bourbon journey, it's like I got my single barrel and was able to taste it side by side with yours. And there were these clear differences in taste. And that's kind of neat to be able to experience as well. TJ, it's just like you're just serving up these softballs for me. Like just lead me in right into this next one, And so my next one's a single barrel as well.
Okay.
I mean, really, it's the original single barrel. It comes with this little horsey on top. I guess you can collect these things. I mean, Blanton's out of Buffalo. So sorry, I'm a little heavy on Buffalo Trace products. So you might know where this flight's going, but
I mean, I heard they're good. People do stand in line. There's a lot of Facebook groups for them.
Yeah, this one's a little tougher. This one you don't normally see sitting on the shelf as much. At least I don't. This is the one where you just got to spend, a couple $1,000s on wine in the liquor store, and then they might call you for one, and you're like, thanks. I really wanted you to call me for BTAC, but I'll take the Blantons, I guess.
Well, and I'm sure they only charge you like $100 for the Blantons too.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah.
Because I would say I find it on the shelf all the time at the liquor store right down the street. It's $150.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, and the E.H. Taylor's right next to it at $145. I don't know why it sits there. Obviously, somebody needs to watch our video, and they will understand that they should go out and spend that crazy amount of money, or just, I mean, $1,000 of wine. It works. My fifth bottle is going to push that envelope, and that is going to be a Russell's Reserve single barrel. So it's, I think, a really good way to finish it off because it does suddenly go up on proof. It's still not up to the 120, 130 range that some of the Elijah Craig and Stagg Juniors and things like that are, that when you really get into bourbon, you're looking for. But it is higher. It's 110. The other cool thing with this is it is truly a store pick, a single barrel. And so you can talk about cool things like that, like how this is a one-of-a-kind bottle. There's maybe 150 of them out there, and that's it. And you will never taste it again.
So to finish it off, this is something, you said, with a single barrel, it's like you'll never see it again. It's like you'll never get that experience again, which is actually kind of this interesting. I've heard Jackie Zykan talk about that, like when she's tasting whiskey in the Rick House, and it's like nobody will ever taste that whiskey at that moment ever again, because it's like as it continues to age and the barrel's changing. So anyway, that was a sidebar. So this is something I will never see again either, and it's Old Carter Batch 6. So this is the end. This is, if my friends were over, it's like I didn't really want to serve it to them, but this is just what I'm going to drink. So it's like you'll see if maybe I slip the wild turkey in there if like by the end they're clearly not capable of continuing with good bourbon. So this is my finisher.
I mean, to be fair, up until like 4 months ago, like Old Carter just sat on the shelf. So
if we could only go back.
Yeah, so that's our list. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and please.
I feel like I just do have to say, like, if the audience stuck with us through this, like my list was rooted in sarcasm deeply.
Yeah, we don't need any more comments that Chuck is just a jerk.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
and I will be the first to say, yes, he is my buddy, and yes, he does the channel with me, but I would still say it about him. He would be the first guy that if you showed up at his house and said, "Ooh, I like that Old Carter," he would pull it down and pour it for you, no matter where you are in your bourbon journey. We both are that type. And that's because bourbon is meant to be shared. And anybody that doesn't believe that, you can just get out of the hobby right now, and the passion, because this is what it's all about, is taking bottles to friends and sharing them. And everything like that. So hopefully you like the list. Comment below. Please hit the subscribe button. It really helps us out. We're trying to get to that 1,000 mark so we can, start doing some cool stuff with giveaways and different things like that. We might give away Brian's house without him knowing. Who knows? It could be fun. But let us know what you thought, and we'll see you next time.
Stay neat.
And for Brian, Power of Bourbon.